Good evening. I'm Councillor Raper, and I'll be chair of the subcommittee this evening. I'd like to introduce the members of the subcommittee. Along with me this evening are Councillor Kent and Councillor Benson. Also in attendance are the licensing officer, Elizabeth Cox, and Laura Manning, and Paul Adams. Legal advisor, Godwin Mangsey, and Kenna Healy is our clerk this evening. Please note that the meeting tonight will be recorded for publication until we hear item 5, as this item is an exempt item by virtue of Part 1 of Schedule 12 of the Local Government Act 1972. I'd like to advise that following a request from the licensing department, I've agreed to take item 5 first and then item 4. Item 1 on the agenda, apologies. I've not been advised of any apologies. Item 2, urgent business. I've not been advised of any items of urgent business. Item 3, can I invite members of the subcommittee to declare any interests? No, thank you. I propose that that the press and the public are excluded from the meeting during the consideration of item 5 on the grounds that they might disclose exempt information relating to an individual. Are members in agreement?
Agreed, Chair.
Thank you. Item 5. Are we no longer recording, Kenna? Yeah. I'd just like to remind everyone now that we will return to a public session from this point on. So, I'd like to explain the process of the hearing. Firstly, the licensing officer will present their report. Following this, members and all relevant parties will have the opportunity to ask any questions. Then, each party will be given the opportunity to give their case. This is also followed by questions from members and all parties. Once everyone has presented their case, all parties will have time to give a closing summary and the licence holder having the final say. The subcommittee will then retire to consider its decision and will be accompanied by the clerk and the legal advisor. Does anyone have any questions at this point? No, thank you. Do any parties have any further requests, in particular permission for another person to appear other than that specified in their advanced notice, for permission for cross-examine or any other requests? No. Thank you. Okay. I'd now like to ask the licensing officer to present the factual report.
Thank you, Chair. An application for a new premises licence has been received for Gray's Ethnic Foods, 4 Manor Road, West Thurrock. One representation has been received from a local resident. Following this hearing, the committee are asked to consider the report and appendices, together with any oral submissions heard this evening, and determine this application to grant the licence. This application was submitted on the 22nd of October of this year for 4 Manor Road, West Thurrock. It was submitted on behalf of Convey Enterprises Limited. It's an application to supply for the supply of alcohol for consumption off the premises only. A copy of the full application and supporting documents are Appendix 1 and a map of the locations at Appendix 2. During the consultation period, a representation was received from a local resident attached to Appendix 3. It is important to note that necessity for a business and impact on other businesses financially are not a relevant consideration. During the consultation period, a number of conditions were agreed with our trading standards team by the applicant. They're listed out at 4.4 of the report. I don't intend to read them out verbatim, but they have been agreed by the applicant. Trading standards did also highlight the fact that the premises had failed a Challenge 25 test purchase relating to the sale of fireworks, but aside from that, I did not have an objection to the licence being granted. A copy of that is attached to Appendix 4. No representations are received from any other responsible authorities or any other person. Under the Licensing Act 2003, the licensing objectives are the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, prevention of public nuisance, and the protection of children of harm. Any representation must relate to a particular premises and must be relevant to the promotion of one or more of those objectives. Following all the information heard tonight, the options available are to grant the application as applied for, including the conditions from trading standards, to grant the application subject to any such conditions as are necessary and proportionate to promote the licensing objectives, or to refuse the application. In determining this application for a grant of the premises licence, the subcommittee should have regard to the Council's statement of licensing policy and the Section 182 guidance issued by the Secretary of State. The subcommittee advised that the final decision should be based on the individual merits of this application and findings of fact made at the hearing. Application must be determined within 5 working days of the conclusion of this hearing in accordance with the Licensing Act hearings regulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Do members have any questions for the licensing officer?
No.
No? Yeah.
Sorry, Chair, could I just ask, when we're looking at premises licence, do we have to take into account regarding parking arrangements?
Not parking facilities, only if there was an imminent public safety risk to it, but whether a premises has a car park or does not have a car park would not be a relevant consideration.
Are there any other questions? Okay, thank you. Does the applicant or their representative have any questions for the licensing officer? Thank you. I'd now like to ask the applicant or their representative to present their case.
Thank you, Chair and Councillors. Apologies, the applicant isn't here. I got stuck in a bit of traffic on the way over from an earlier hearing on the other side of the country, and I think they're the same as well. What I would ask you today is to grant the licence as applied for with the conditions that have been amended by Trading Standards. The police, I spoke to them on the phone very briefly. They were quite happy with the conditions that were attached on the licence. As the licensing officer said, you know, we've looked at the local policy, it sits within the local policy, and then equally the Section 182 guidance, which is obviously issued by the Home Office. There's a number of relevant points within that guidance which I think are relevant to this application. The first is at Section 9.37, where it seeks that the licensing authority should focus the hearing around the particular licensing objective that have given rise to this specific representation. So focus on that. The reason we're here is the representation that has been made. I did make submissions to the local authority in respect of, is there a vexatious nature to that representation? The individual that made the representation, when you read their original rep, you can see that they are from a local shop, and there is a concern that that will impact on their business as well. My concern is that they're making the representation not in good faith about the licensing objectives being undermined, rather that they fear competition in the area. And the difficulty where we are with the Licensing Act now is obviously when the representation's made, it's hit those trigger points, and we are now at the hearing we're at now. Hopefully the reforms in the future will allow a bit more, give the local authority a bit more power to perhaps knock back representations of that nature. In respect of what has been raised within the representation, however, another consideration in respect to the guidance is in that there are no responsible authorities making any objections to this application. The police are happy. So from a crime and disorder licensing objective, I think we can be satisfied that there are no concerns from them that the licensing objectives will be undermined. From protection of children from harm, we've agreed those conditions with Trading Standards, who would take the lead on that licensing objective. Public nuisance, there's no concerns from the Environmental Health Department. Essentially it is an off licence that will operate as normal. There's not going to be any recorded music or anything that's going to undermine that licensing objective. And then in respect of public safety, they will have an incident log on site to make sure any incidents are recorded there accordingly. I don't want to keep you too long. Probably just another couple of little bits from the Section 182 guidance. It was revised in November, and they just added one little section to the guidance, and it's at 1.18. And obviously there's a lot of, you might see it in the press quite a bit about, you know, the the government not wanting too much bureaucracy or over-regulation, and so the feedback and the addition in there is at 1.18, and based on all the feedback about supporting the economy and all that, it reads as 1.18. When making licensing decisions, all licensing authorities should consider the need to promote growth and deliver economic benefits. I would ask you to consider that, and hope that this is a business that wants to thrive, wants to sell alcohol responsibly, and will do so going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Do members have any questions for the applicant or their representative? Representative, yeah.
Just the one question. Training, is that done by an external provider or?
Yes. I just put on my wig.
We'll do a license application for anyone. Bog standard ones, incident log refusers, register, CCTV. They're the kind of, I would expect to see them on any license. But accordingly, if I'm going to suggest that as a condition to use an applicant, then my view is that you then need to have the tools to be able to train your staff. So, what I've got on the website is the I've got like 3 different websites. This is the main one. See if it'll load up now.
I mean, you can just explain
Right.
it if you
So
like.
it's done by your company's portal, yes?
So for the, if they needed enhanced like personal license training or anything, we can do that in person, or we can do it online. So part of the training, you'd be provided with a kind of manual for staff, which covers mostly the basics. It doesn't go into a huge amount of detail. It'll be around, you know, identifying proxy cells, making sure what IDs you can check, identifying street drinkers, what to do in case of an incident, how to make a refusal of a sale. There's a little bit about safeguarding there, and then what you would do, you would issue that to your member of staff. They then fill out a quiz based on what they've learnt. It's not a pass or fail, but then you can go through and say little areas like who's the DPS, what are the hours, make sure they know the conditions attached to the licence. They sign and date that, and all those resources are online as well.
I've got a question as well. I mean, considering that the current staff were apparently unaware of the restrictions around fireworks and so on, how confident are you that this training will take place? I know it's one of the conditions proposed, but how confident are you that it can be, it will take place and it will be regularly monitored? Because I'm not sure who will be present in the shop all the time. It's because obviously you're not going to be there, but so if you could expand on that, please.
It would always come down to the individual and the DPS and the licence holder to undertake those checks. I'll of course relay to them the importance of having that done, and then it may be the case that if you're minded to grant the application, that we could produce that documentation to the licensing authority in the first instance before any licensable activity takes place. I have had seen that as a condition on a licence as well. So if you were minded to grant the application, it could be a grant conditional on training being supplied to the licensing authority before a licensable activity takes place.
Thank you. Are there any other questions people wish to make?
No,
Does the licensing officer have any questions?
No, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I'd now like to ask the licensing officer to summarise their case, if you have anything to add.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, you've heard the report and the submissions from the applicant's representative. Just highlight again that business competition is not a licensing objective, and it's just to focus on the 4 actual licensing objectives. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd now like to ask the applicant or the representative to make a closing summary statement.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for hearing this today. I won't go on. I think I've stated everything earlier on.
Thank you. The subcommittee will now retire and consider the decision. Has everyone had the opportunity to ask any questions they wanted? Yeah. I'll be accompanied by the clerk and the legal advisor, and I'll just apologise at this point because I had begun the meeting for a previous application. I didn't introduce us. So this evening I'm Councillor Karen Raper, I'm the chair of the meeting. We've got Councillor Kent and Councillor Benson. Thank you. So we're going to retire and then we'll come back and the legal advisor will give you the decision. Thank you. Thank you. Could I please ask the legal advisor to give the decision of the subcommittee?
Thank you, Chair. The decision of the subcommittee, having considered your application and presentation, decides to grant the application. The application is granted subject to the condition agreed with trading standard, with the addition on condition number 5, there's an addition to condition number 5, that there will be the, stipulating the need for the applicant to provide proof of training prior to commencement of sales of alcohol on the premises. So you have the right to appeal against this decision within 21 days at the magistrate court, and a copy of the decision will be provided within 5 working days. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the applicant for their attending this evening, and I'd like to thank everyone else for attending this evening. That concludes the business of the meeting, and I now declare the meeting closed at 17:46 p.m. So thank you very much.
Thank you.